Cool.
Lately, when I've been dropping the audio file in, it's not complete. Like it leaves 20 minutes off. So I have to extract the audio from the video, which isn't hard. You still just drag and drop. But it's been weird. It's been cutting that off. Yet the whole video has everything.
Even the technology wants us to shut up sooner. I'm ready, man. I'm ready when you are.
Okay, cool. All right, there we go. Love it. Let's kick it off with some laughter. Welcome to another episode of Ticket to Gamehendge. Lots to talk about today. There's a lot going on. We're late November, and anniversaries happening with fall tours. We talked a lot about 11/17/97 last week. I'm in the middle of 11/29/09. Which is almost anniversary now. Got some Beacon Jams to talk about. Phans in the Wild. First, I guess. What's that?
It's so funny.
Phans in the Wild. I know it's like a separate species of human, right? Like Phish fans are not Homo sapiens. What are we? I don't know what. You try to think of a name. Maybe by the end of this episode, we'll have a good genealogical name for Phish fans. So you put out an email today. So you've been trying to start a band, right? You obviously played the guitar. You've been playing for most of your life, I guess you could say. You were what, 11 or 12 when you started?
I was in grade 7 or 8. So what are you? 13, 12, 13, 11, something like that.
Yeah. You know what's funny? You're obviously a Canadian because Canadians say grade 7, grade 8. Americans will say 7th grade, 8th grade. Sounds much more classy.
You know what else? Americans say that we say differently? When we say write an exam, they say take an exam. When I was finishing up chiropractic school in the States, I'm like, oh, we're going to write our exam. Everyone make fun of me. Oh, what are you writing the questions? I'm like, well, what do you idiots say then? They're like, take an exam. I'm like, where are you taking it? To the bathroom? And that was it.
Yep.
And that was our conversation.
And those are the only differences between Canadian and American English. Just those two examples. That's it. We don't say anything differently at all.
No.
But yeah, Phans in the Wild. There's an exciting feeling. Like we talked about last week how we're almost part of this weird little cult, clique, club, fraternity, whatever you want to call it. And in our everyday lives, most fans, at least that I know, I mean, I don't know many fans, I guess, when I think about it, but we're kind of isolated. So when I see one in the wild, the odd time I see somebody wearing a Phish shirt, it's like, holy shit. Like I just saw a celebrity, you know? I had a guy I think the last time I saw somebody wearing something that I could identify as a Phish fan was probably about 2 years ago. I was in a store. I work in a store. And this customer walked around was wearing a Phish shirt. Man. What's that?
Secret agent. Come on.
Yeah. It's totally it. Yeah, I put up with all this stuff.
You're working in a store. That's an alibi. Don't let them fool you.
Yeah. So I see this guy wearing a Phish shirt, and it's an instant connection, right? Like there's an instant. You almost feel like you kind of know that person. And we got talking, and within about five minutes, just sharing all kinds of things. It was pretty awesome. So you've been putting together a band, or trying to put together a band, and evidently drummers are tough to come by. I always thought that bass players were tough to come by because everybody wants to play the guitar. So it was always tough to find a bassist, but I'm guessing drummers are the same. So what exactly happened there? You made a discovery.
So a couple things, just based on your story. The one thing that is super disappointing with Phans in the Wild, I remember we were vacationing in Florida last year, and I was at Walmart buying groceries, right, to take home. Mm-hmm. And I saw this guy, and he totally looked like a Grateful Dead fan. Like he had like the shirt and everything, and it was like, it said like, Grateful Dead like 1983 on it, right? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, oh dude, I'm like, did you go? When I'm trying to talk to him about his shirt, he's like, oh no, he's like, it's just a shirt. I'm like, you son of a. So it was just a bum at Walmart.
Yep.
Not a Grateful Dead fan. So like you get all hyped up, right? You're gonna shoot the shit. Oh my god, this guy's wearing a Phish shirt. No, it's just a bum.
I get that a lot with sports teams. Because, like, I'm a New York Giants fan, as you know. Yep. And by the way, they didn't
Pittsburgh
play the Bengals
Steelers,
this past week. They got it coming up.
What's that?
Yeah. So the Giants and Bengals are this Sunday. I thought it was this past, but Giants had a bye, so they're playing this coming Sunday. So we still have time to make our side bet. But anyway, I'll see somebody wearing a Giants shirt or a hat, and I'm like, hey, man. And he goes, oh, yeah, I got this in a beer case. I get that all the time, too. And it's sort of a letdown because you feel like you're going to connect with somebody and they just shrug you off like you're some other jerk off, which I guess we are. But So anyway, back to the drummer.
Yes, so I have this vision. I'm gonna play in a band. Like part of my life is going to involve around like playing live music and recording music and being
Awesome.
being a musician, right? So I'm like, okay, got a bass player, my buddy Anthony. He's pretty much like I grew up with Anthony, so Anthony's good. We're tight. And then we're getting together, we're playing some songs. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna, I called Long and McQuaid. I don't know if people listening, Long and McQuaid is a music store. It's a chain in Canada of music stores. And I'm like, okay, I have this such and such, and I'm looking for a drummer. And he's like, okay. He goes, just go on Facebook and go in. There's a London musicians group. You can post like an ad in there. And there's a London drummers group. You can post an ad in there. Super helpful, right? So I post this ad. Cool. And to say that a colorful cast of characters responded is an understatement. So, which is a whole probably podcast in and of itself. And so I'm trying to weed through the people, right? And this one guy's like, hey, like it was an honest ad. I'm like, hey, we're intermediate musicians, just looking to get together. Like my criteria is really simple. Number one, you need to show up. Number two, you need to actually work at it. I don't care how talented or good you are. If we practice for long enough and hard enough, we're going to get the skills we need to be able to do this, right? And that you're consistent. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, great. So this guy responds. He's like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, you want to show progress, right? You want to be able to move forward and not just be doing. Man. Yeah,
That's it. That's my theory, right? And we talk about it every time we talk about recording music. I always say it's the same thing, man. You just need the hours. So same thing with practicing. Anyway, so this guy replies. He's like, yeah, hey, I'm 42. He's like, I'd like to, I've been playing for a long time. I'm like, perfect, man. Come out on Sunday. Shows up. Super normal guy. He showed up on time. He's got his drum kit. We're getting along. We're setting up. I'm like, hey, man, what are you into? He's like, oh, Phish and the Dead. I'm like, oh, buddy.
Serendipity. Wow.
Oh, yeah, buddy. And then I left this out of the email. He's like, look, he goes like this. He shows me his forearm, and he has the outline of a Languedoc guitar tattooed on his forearm. I'm like, respect.
There you go.
Respect. So now it's, and then I looked at Anthony. I'm like, well, I hate to break it to you, buddy, but I guess you're going to be a Phish and a Dead fan pretty soon.
Yeah. Now, so is that the band?
For now.
Just the three of you?
We need a singer, we need a keyboard player, because I'm trying my best to sing. It is far from pretty. But whatever, man.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And I guess it's too early for a band name.
Oh, fuck. Who knows about anything about that? We got to make sure the drummer keeps showing up first, or we're back to square one. Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. Let's keep checking in on that. I'm curious to see where you guys go and what it becomes. I mean, when's the best time to plant a tree? 200 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree?
Confucius say, Ari Gold.
Oh, too funny. It's funny that you sort of mentioned the hours, put in the hours. So you sent me a link about a YouTube channel that I'd never seen before
Rick
from
Beato.
a musician named
producer.
Is he your producer?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't really done any research into Rick Beato. He's got nearly 2 million subscribers, so it's definitely not like unknown.
He's legit.
And he does a lot of things on there. Just looking at his channel, one of the things that I'm going to take a look at was he put in 10,000 hours of guitar and documented it on his channel. He's already a proficient player, evidently.
Yep.
So I'm really curious to see what fine practice for somebody at that level does. But the reason I was watching is because on episode 98 of his, I think it's called "What Makes This Song Great," he did "Waste" with Phish, but it was specifically the video that got put out before one of the Beacon Jams a little while ago of Trey and Paige playing at the barn. And I really, really enjoyed it. It was sort of interesting because you sent me the link. A couple days later, it showed up on Reddit, and I was looking at all the comments in Reddit. And you know how you can upvote or downvote somebody? Mm-hmm. Somebody put a comment in. I wish he didn't pick such a gay song or something like that. And you could see people smashing the downvote button, like just when I saw it. It's like -40, but I was like, this is great. But it also reminds me, I know we're going to talk about Beacon Jams, but like I finally figured out the first week I didn't know how to get rid of the comments while watching the jams. now I know how to get rid of it. But I've chosen for the most part to watch it with the comments on,
that's the
because
best
it's
part.
added a whole set of entertainment that
That's the best
I
part.
otherwise wouldn't have gotten. And the hate that comes out for ballads specifically, anytime like this past week when Petrichor started, people were putting up Petra Board. When Farmhouse played, I think it was
So
last week or
good.
maybe the week before, bathroom break comments. Anytime those types of songs start to play, again, I'm going to come back to Time Turns Elastic, which
So
I'm
good.
really kind of hoping on for this week with the last one, which I doubt it's going to play. But just the hate that exists, I find it funny, but I also find it funny the strong reactions of fans be like, "Fuck you! It's awesome." I love that too.
Do you?
So.
I have two thoughts. Number one, it's hilarious that like fans, when we meet in public, it's like, but like online, it's the WWE, man. You're dead
right.
if you disagree with me, which is awesome.
Yeah. Super
And
cutthroat.
yeah, and number two, I don't know if you have Sirius Radio, but the Phish Sirius Radio takes legit abuse in the Phish Reddit, particularly the John Fishman show, the Errant Path. I think we've talked about it before because he just plays whatever he wants, right?
Right.
So he plays like all
Logic Bean. Yeah, I mean, Logic Bean. If you like that band, you're probably gonna like some of the influences that made Phish.
Yeah, like,
clearly not the case.
I like it because I want to listen to new music, right? I want to discover other stuff. Oh my god, man, people hate it. I'm like, it's just interesting, and it's ironic to me that, you know, you go to Phish shows and now, you know, you listen to bands like The Talking Heads and, and all these other bands that they've covered. And I don't know, man, it's just funny. Like now they're actually like sharing their influences with you and like you're super pissed about it.
Well, it's pretty ironic too, because as we've talked about many times, the most essential thing for somebody becoming a Phish fan is that they need to love music.
I think so.
Right? And you got to think, if somebody loves this band, as millions of people do, they're very eclectic. You know, there's all kinds of different sounds. So I would think it would develop an appreciation and an open-mindedness towards other stuff. So it is kind of funny that there is a lot of hate when it's something different.
No,
that's being played.
Of course there's guys like me who would go on there and just post stupid shit just to get a response and a reaction, right? Like you gotta
poke the bear.
When I hear someone write in a Phish group that the song "Waste" is and pardon the the language is gay, I'm like, what? Do you even like this band? Like, it's okay that it's not your favorite song, but to say something so stupid, like when you hear something that's stupid, you're just like, what?
Right. But then I wonder too, if watching that video about why that song is so great, and he breaks it down on a more fundamental level, the notes that are chosen. And again, every time I see one of those videos, I have a deeply found appreciation for the knowledge and the theory that goes into it, and how it is somewhat, no, I don't want to say basic. It just makes sense. Like when somebody explains it in that way, you're like, oh, okay. I wonder if watching it would then help somebody's impression of that song. I mean, I already love that song. It was one of the early ones. I can remember you and I recording a version of Waste in your basement way back in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did that. We did Limb by Limb. Which was another one that we laid down. You had like a 4-track recorder type thing, right?
It's so cool.
And so I've always loved that song. It's actually one that was covered by Dave on the Sharing in the Groove Phish tribute album that came out, and I want to say 2003, 2002 or 2003. What's that?
During the hiatus, right?
Yeah. I think it came. Actually, it might have been 2001. I think it was 2001. But Dave Matthews covered Waste and did it at probably 15, 20 shows that year. Nice. So yeah, great song. But I just really, really like how he can break it down and talk about the harmonies that go in between the two, the tuning that was different from the album version versus the version that was on that video from the barn. And then even for him to kind of talk about working with Trey for about 6 months and what he got to see and the work ethic and just his warm-up exercises and what he's doing with loops and just creating all these percussions. And it's I almost wanted to kind of teleport and be able to be him for those 6 months and kind of watch that all unfold.
Interesting side note. I'm listening. I think I talked about this. Honest to God, I cannot remember what happened like 2 minutes ago. If anyone ever has like a secret to tell me, they can tell me because I'll forget. So I'm reading a book by just on practice and how to be the best at whatever it is you choose to do. He talks about Anders Ericsson and the 10,000 hour rule.
Yep.
Right, and then he talks about he compares a country like Brazil, in terms of like football or soccer or however you want to call it. He's like, why are they the best? And he's like, it's woven in their culture so much that by the time the average soccer player who's Brazilian reaches 21, if they've pursued soccer, they're already at like 14,000 hours. But the time under tension is what's important too. It's not like just 14,000 hours of nothing, right? The way that they do it there is, like you have to play against the older kids. So you're always striving and you're always in a hostile environment to pursue excellence, because if you don't, and if you don't figure out how to do it, you'll never touch the ball or you'll never see the field, right? So then you hear about Trey, from Rick Beato being like, the guy's work ethic is unparalleled. He'll create these loops and he would just play along for hours, it's not a mystery. The only mystery to me is how Trey Anastasio isn't like more widely regarded as, one of the all-time great players ever.
Players and writers. I mean, when you hear those songs and those melodies, I keep coming back to, and it's sort of a hidden one for me. I keep coming back to Screaming Coil.
Oh, buddy. So
yeah,
awesome.
there's when that guitar solo melody kicks in, I'm just like, fuck! I can't believe somebody wrote this. That's just one. One song.
Screaming Coil is my favorite. This is probably a question for Reddit, but my favorite set one ender by far. I love how the band fades away and it's just Page and he's like, thanks everybody, with his like really kind voice.
Yeah, well, my first show, the show ended with Screaming Coil, as a matter of fact. It's and we talked about Page. Just love that. But yeah, so if anybody hasn't checked that out, Rick Beato's What Makes the Song Great was episode 98 on Waste. Definitely check it out. It's only 13, 14 minutes, but really, really enjoyed that. Last week when we were wrapping up, you told me to go back and listen to 11/17/97, if memory serves, because your wife, Rochelle, had listened to it and was talking about how awesome that was. Yeah. First set, 5-song set. Love it.
Done. Probably, arguably one of the best sets. Definitely one of the best first sets they've probably ever played.
You think so?
If somebody were to tell me that, if somebody were to be like, hey, Denver, Colorado from 97 is my favorite set and one of the best sets, I'd be like, yeah, man, I can't disagree with you.
Yeah, prove me wrong, right? Can't really do it. Really, really great. I wanted to bring up yesterday, I'm winding down 2009. I think I have about to come up on the Madison Square Garden run for 4 days, which I think was the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, or 3rd, something like that. And then they did American West Airlines Arena in Florida for New Year's. But I listened to 11/28/09 mostly yesterday. Second set I started on my way home, and I wanted to kind of talk about a couple songs. The second set opens with a nearly 25 minute seven below, and is just leaving work and listening to it get going. Really, really great jam. I just got thinking about, like, this is just one of those songs that on an album it's just plucked in there. It's not necessarily a crowd favorite. It's not one that you'll see in a top 15 or top 20 list, but it delivers. It's just like, just listening to that song. And I know they did their first New Year's in terms of their comeback in 2002. That was the big New Year's song. Yep. But just listening to it in a really, really good groove and really, really appreciating it. And then it goes into a 24-minute Ghost. My drive on, if I get no traffic, is about 50 minutes. 47 of those 50 minutes yesterday were 2 songs. That's awesome. And it was just like, fuck, yeah. So then, of course, I get home and I go on to Fishnet and I'm looking up 7 Below. And that's essentially the quintessential version of that song. And most people maintain that for 2009, it was the jamming highlight of the year, were those 2 songs back to back. And it was sort of interesting for me because, again, this is 11 years ago. It's come and gone. But as I mentioned to you weeks ago, I'm trying to slow down my listening, trying to absorb it a little bit more, trying to get back to, I guess, what fans that have been actively listening for 20, 30 years have been doing, taking it at the pace that it would naturally come. And for the first time, I really kind of sat and really thought about the show and looked it up, and it sort of confirmed my feelings of it, that other people had felt the same way, that it was one of the best shows of 2009. So, but last week, similar to Seven Below, I think it might have been 11/27, where It's Ice came on. And it was another one of those songs like, this is so, so good. And it's one that I had never really actively thought of the lyrics before. And when I read what those lyrics were about, mind blown. Do you know what that song's about? Like what the visual for that song is?
No, tell me.
It's about a guy who's on a frozen pond, who's actually like on a frozen pond skating. And when he looks down, he sees the reflection of himself, but it's not himself. It's himself, but in like another dimension. Oh, cool. And as he's skating around and he's looking at this almost parallel universe through the ice, he's reflecting on everything that's going on with them. Like that whole album riff is really about like a major breakup.
Two halves, right?
Yeah. And it was just, again, just one of those songs that what I love about Phish, one of the many things, is you can listen to a show and those songs will just keep coming. You know, there's a feeling I get when I hear songs like Carini and when I hear, you know, Fluffhead and Harry Hood and those ones, right? Yes, but then those ones you just go, fuck, yeah, this is good. So really, really enjoyed listening to those over the last little while. It just makes the listening that much better.
Just based on that, I'm going back. Rochelle wanted to watch Bittersweet Motel. She's like, let's go back and like just so it's interesting, right? Because like, you know, Todd Phillips is being kind of a dick and he's trying to like set Trey up. You know, he's like making him read bad reviews and that, you know, and Trey reads that. This is the part that I found really interesting. He reads that bad review, you know, urinating in the fans' ears. And he's like, I think there's a lot of truth to that. And then Todd Phillips tries the lyrics are quirky or whatever he says about the lyrics. And he's like, nah, I disagree. He's like, I think Tom's a genius.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he is. He is. Totally some of my favorite podcasts to listen to are on his Under the Scales when he does the deep dives on the songs. And he has guests and friends on and he knows what he wrote about. He knows, and he's also the first to admit that other songs, they just take on a life of their own. He's like, don't ask me what it means. I just work here. It's almost like that type of approach.
And it's nice. It's so nice that he doesn't like feed you his answers. He lets you do it, right? I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, but to hear them kind of get into that. So what do you think this is about? Oh, that's interesting. I guess it is kind of about that. I never really knew. Right. Like, what is it? Is it not Pebbles and Marbles? Maybe it's Pebbles and Marbles. There was a song that was written in 2.0 that wasn't in Tom's mind intended to be anything about 9/11, but it is about 9/11. Walls of the Accent, Walls of the Cave. Yeah, it says he wrote that for his son, but it ultimately ended up kind of becoming. And Trey always played it thinking it was about 9/11, and then Tom was like, "Huh, it is? I guess so." Those kinds of things, right? It's great that it can take on a life of its own, and it can mean something to different people.
I love it.
You know, yeah, fantastic. Dinner and a movie. If we're talking about 97, yeah, yeah, that was a nice message to get from you yesterday. I hadn't checked into my phone in a little while, and you texted me that dinner movie is going to be 11/22/97, which I know I'd listened to, but I don't know the set well. But I'm super, super excited to watch that on Saturday night. How well do you know that show? Do you know it well?
I know that when I start to hear it, I'll be like, oh, yes. Like, I'm kind of glad that I forget things. Right? Because I think, you know, and here's the thing, man. I don't know how people listen. Like, I don't know if, like, the way that we listen to sets is unique. And I don't know if it's worth talking about or if it's just the way that everyone listens to them, you know?
Like, in what sense? Like, how do you listen? What do you mean?
So, I mean, just going in cold.
Oh, I see. Not knowing, yeah, like, oh, yeah, this is playing instead of knowing that whatever is coming next.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. That might be a good thing to sort of put out there in a poll. Like when you listen to live Phish, do you go in blind or do you like knowing the set? And obviously, I think it's going to depend on if it's a show you've been to or is one of your favorites, you're gonna know. Just like before
sure.
Live Phish, was available, how many times did you listen to Slip, Stitch, and Pass, or how many
Oh,
times did you listen to a live one, right?
Of course.
But yeah, that's my favorite thing. Like when I go to download it offline, I literally cover up most of the screen with my hand, so like no spoilers, and I literally look away while it's look away while it's downloading, because the element of surprise is one of the best things about it. That they, holy shit, I can't believe they pulled that out of nowhere.
Yep.
Those types of moments, they're the best. So I'm really, really excited. I will be home. I will be sitting pretty much right here watching it. Really excited. Are you going to be able to watch it live or on delay?
Not sure. Probably delay a little bit, but whatever, man.
Okay. Yeah, I typically delay a little bit because then I can kind of skip through the set break too, right? It's nice on the YouTube that you can start on delay. You can pause it. It's awesome. I like that.
And they keep it up now longer, which is great. Like the Halloween one, I think, is still up, right?
Is it?
I don't know. Is it?
I haven't even gone back to look. I just assumed it was down. I watched it when it happened, and that was that.
No, they keep it up for like at least a couple of weeks, I think.
Shit, that's awesome. So good. So yeah, I guess I didn't have plans Saturday night, but I do now. Got a date with Phish.
Oh, American Thanksgiving too. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Oh yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's a very festive time of the year. Hopefully is safe, which they're not going to be because nope, it's just not the way of the world at the moment. And we only have one more night of Beacon Jams. Right, we've done 7 of the 8 Beacon shows. It's been really, really good. You called it last week, by the way. Remember when we were wrapping up and said, what do you think? Harry Hood was what you said, and then as soon as we started, I was like, yep.
So something interesting. I was listening to Trey on Sirius Radio, and he was talking about Dinner and a Movie and how successful monetarily it's been for the charities and stuff like that. Which is why I think they launched, again, I'm assuming here, so if I'm incorrect, please forgive me, which is why I think they're doing the Beacon Jams to help support the Divided Sky Foundation. So, I don't know, man, I just want to kind of give a shout out and a big thank you to everyone who keeps donating money, because I think we're kind of keeping this whole thing rolling, Like, I think it means a lot. So I think the more that we do it, the more chances are that we're going to see more of the boys and more performances.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds me of something that we've talked about, that people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And, I don't know about you, but because you're not watching the Beacon Jams because you're typically busy with your kids and stuff, but I know that when I log on, it tells you how many people are viewing, right?
Yep.
And in the first couple weeks, on average, you'd see 20 to 25,000 people, which, hey, that's if we had that audience, could you imagine? In the past couple weeks, you're starting to hit 35 to 40,000 people. There's definitely a bit of a snowball effect that I think is gaining some momentum for it. And coming back to it too, the genuine appreciation that you see from Trey in the chatter and the comments in between, and just, somebody's donating $40 and he's like incredibly thankful they could spare that $40 means a lot to him, clearly. And yeah, I really hope it lends to other ideas for next year, because let's be real, I don't think we're further away from having real live shows again than we are closer to having live shows. And I'm really hoping that turns into something in the new year or whatever. I mean, clearly the technology is there to do it. To be able to stream it 4K, the sound quality that they have is like, it's unbelievable.
It's awesome.
Yeah, you wonder how many other innovations there's going to be in live music during this time.
Well, I was gonna say, how many live music innovations can we thank Phish for?
Oh,
like in our lives.
Yeah. So what's funny is, and I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I'm sure you've done a little bit of this. In my store, I've had a lot of visits lately from vice presidents and that sort of stuff, just due to the fire that we had. And I had a bunch in last Wednesday. My boss knows that we do this podcast, but he doesn't know anything about the band. He's just like, wow, you do a podcast? Wow, how do you do that? That must be hard. I'm like, oh, if you only knew how easy it was, just like I thought originally. And anyway, so I had like 5-6 executives in my store, and they're leaving and thanking me for the visit and all that stuff. And my boss brings up the podcast, and our vice president goes, oh, what's the podcast about? And I was like, shit, here we go. So I said it, like I said what it was about, this band Phish. He goes, oh, I've never heard of that. And I went, really? That's one of the best things about the band. And I just went into this little 1 minute tirade, not tirade,
Not a
but
tirade.
Advocating on why this band is so special. And I said, they gave birth to music streaming. And he goes, what? And I said, live Phish existed before Spotify, Apple Music, anything. There wasn't a band that had a platform that you could go on and stream all of their music in 2002. Like, what technology was in your hands in 2002? You know, you weren't carrying around a portable phone.
Yep.
You know, I talked with the connections to Coachella and Bonnaroo, the modern day music festival. They've got a banner, Madison Square Garden, because of the Baker's Dozen. And he, like, I say these things and he goes, why haven't I heard about these guys? And I shrugged my shoulder and I said, that's kind of one of the best things about the band. They don't advertise. They don't do music videos. They don't do singles. It's not what they're about. It's about the quality of their work. And he went, I'm going to listen to this band. So curious to see if he checks them out.
Up.
Yeah. He's a Belgian guy, right? He's from Belgium. It's probably his idea who Phish is, or spelled wrong. What are you talking about? But, they could see the people that I was saying that to, like, wow, we can see how passionate you are about this band. And I was like, yeah, like it gives me a feeling unlike anything else. And so, yeah, but you're right. They just pioneered so many things and just keep pushing the envelope to do things that are different. Even the ones that don't come to fruition, like what they had planned for Curveball.
The minefield?
The minefield. Could you imagine? Oh, man. You could take the long way and be safe and not be disturbed by the mines, or you can go right through when you're tripping balls on whatever you're tripping balls on, and mines would come up and spook the shit out of you.
I kind of think it would have been funny just to see Fishman drinking with all the mines.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God. So good. Yeah, but I mean, the fact that they keep giving back is just,
awesome.
We talked about last week that they care about our experience, the way that Beacon Jams are shot, the way that they're edited. Even like Harry Hood started out with acoustic and the strings and then ended with the full band coming in. And all that stuff is premeditated and thought through. And it just provides a really, really great experience. So, awesome. Awesome stuff. I don't really have anything else on my list. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
All good, man.
That's it, huh?
Excited for
All
Saturday.
right. Any takeaways? Anything for me to listen to? Any discoveries of like, oh shit, you got to check out this show?
Oh, dude,
like
I can do that. I can do that on the daily.
Gotcha.
But nothing
That's
extra. Just keep doing keep listening to what you're listening.
Gotcha. All right. So one more night of Beacon Jams to go. What are you hoping for? Anything on your wish list?
I forget what they played.
There was a pretty bold call out today on Reddit. Somebody posted that they're calling Beacon Jams to wrap up with an epic first tube as the last song. Which is totally possible, right? That's one that they haven't played that Tab typically plays.
I think it would be cool if they ended on Day in the Life by the Beatles.
Really hasn't been a ton of covers.
No, I know.
Actually, you know what's funny? I listened to, I'm going to get the date wrong, but I heard the Phish's first version of Golden Age, right, when they busted that cover out for the first time in 2009, in November of 2009. And it's interesting to see how much that song has evolved and how much more in tune with the song the fans are, right? The lines are, just clap your hands, like silence when he did that. Even the key that they did it in was off. The vocals were very, very different. Sure. But you could see, we're going to stick to it and we're going to go. And I think Trey just started, like, if I remember correctly, Trey just started playing it. And I don't think the rest of the band was ready for it. That was pretty obvious in how it came out. But I was like, yes, that's awesome. Love that. It came out of nowhere. And that is sort of a nice thing to go back in time and listen to things organically develop and build, right? Early versions of songs and then getting stretched out and getting much, much better. So that's been really fun. Hopefully by the time we chat next week, maybe I'll be moving on to 2010, although I have about 8 shows to listen to between now and then. So maybe not. Realistically speaking, if I'm going to watch Beacon Jams and enter in a movie, I don't think we'll have time for that. But either way, I'm excited. A lot of good listening. We got Friday night date, Saturday night date, and then the anticipation for end of the year builds. And we'll see what predictions come true.
Theories coming. Don't worry about that.
You what?
We'll have a lot of theories.
A lot of theories, yeah. Yeah, you want them to play to an empty MSG and basically pick up where they left off last year, right? Yeah, that would be really, really neat.
No, I want them to announce, let's be clear, I want them to announce like a classic show like 95. We're going to do 95 Dinner and a Movie. Set break comes, special announcement. We go to the Garden. The boys play a live set, and then we finish the night, and then we go back to Dinner and a Movie and we finish the set.
I wonder what the odds makers will put that one at. Like how likely that is to happen.
Just as good as anything else.
That's true. That's true. The plan is there is no plan. We'll see. But yeah, either way, lots to look forward to, lots to listen to, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to chat about next week. Thank you, everybody, for stopping by and listening. We really, really appreciate it. Smash that like button if you get a chance. It's like my new favorite saying, smash it. All right, man. Have a great week. Talk to you then.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, bye.
Bye.